So with the 2023 AFL trade period and draft coming up very soon, in today's video I'm going to be explaining the things which will potentially change this year's trade period and draft. So first off, we're going to start with the most intriguing thing coming up in this year's trade period, which is around Ben McKay. There has been plenty of news recently about what his decision is, which he has made a decision on which club is going to, but a little bit of background information. He started off Port Adelaide, Sydney, Essendon and Hawthorn, all being realistic and live opportunities to snag the key defender. Port Adelaide, which I'll be touching on a little bit later on, have pulled out of the race. Sydney, they've also been out of the race as well. They've got a few more things which they need to work on, including Brodie Grundy. It was down to a two-club race between Essendon and Hawthorn. And the winner for Ben McKay is Essendon, which is absolutely huge. Essendon has been his preferred destination to land at, so Essendon is his club of choice. So you might be like, how might this impact the draft? So this is huge. Ben McKay is going to be going to Essendon. Is going to be a Band 1 compensation pick, which means, of course, they don't have to work a trade, and that means if it is a certain amount of money, which it is very likely it will be, it will slot in at pick 3, giving North Melbourne picks 2 and picks 3, which will mean it might, you guys might, it's not Hawthorn taking away their pick, it's not taking away Hawthorn's pick, it means everyone slides down one, so it means this order would go West Coast, North Melbourne, Hawthorn, Gold Coast, Melbourne, GWS, Geelong, Essendon, Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Sydney, St Kilda, Melbourne, North Melbourne, GWS, Carlton and the Western Bulldogs would round out round 1. The next topic is these three Gold Coast Academy players going by the names of Jed Walter, a big key forward, Ethan Reid, a midfielder, and Jake Rogers, also a midfielder. The fascinating thing about these three players is that they're all expected to be taken in the first round, which does give Gold Coast a couple of problems, but last year they were smart and did trade into this year's draft. Gold Coast hand right here, right this one here with the Gold Coast logo, is 4, 28, 34, 42, 56, 60, 65, 68 and 78, which accumulates to 4,137 points, but they are thinking about trading off pick 4. So pick 4 alone gives you 2,034 points, which will probably be slidden back to pick 5 by the time that there's probably a bid in play and that compensation for Ben McKay comes in. So that'll probably be 5 or 6, which will give you even less points. And what Gold Coast want to do is they want to try and look at a couple clubs which have some very good high-end talent, especially one club in particular, which is the Western Bulldogs. You can see on here they've got picks 10 and 17, which if you do the maths, that gives you 2,420 points, which is more than the 2,034 points, which would then also add up to their tally. And then if they wanted to have a look at some other trading partners that could be in play, Port Adelaide do have some later picks and might want to try and jump in to a 28 or a 34 as well. So Port Adelaide could be a potential option, even though they don't have a lot of points. So that's probably not the greatest of ideas. And then, yeah, West Coast have got plenty of points as well, but I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to trade. But undoubtedly, all of these three players will be taken in the first round with bids. So Gold Coast are going to have to make sure they have enough points to match those bids. Things now get interesting when we start talking about Port Adelaide and who has requested trades to them so far. Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, Asava Radaglia and Jordan Sweet have all requested trades to Alberton so far. Those are 3 players. And Brandon Zerk-Thatcher and Asava Radaglia are going to provide some much needed backline depth for Port Adelaide, which is why Essendon winning the race for Ben McKay is so huge for them. And then because their ruck situation is a great Port Adelaide, either Jordan Sweet will go in and be huge. Lysette could be on the way out. Teakle has got some interest around him as well. So Jordan Sweet is one from the Western Bulldogs. Brandon Zerk-Thatcher and Jordan Sweet are more than very likely going to end up at Port Adelaide next year. It'll be interesting to see what draft capital they do though, which will be going to their picks in just a moment. Asava Radaglia, there has been a comment made by the Cats saying they are prepared to make him go to another club, which Hawthorn has got interest in him. They're prepared to make him go to another club if Port Adelaide are not going to offer enough, and they want a first round pick for Radaglia. So this is back to the first round list, and Port Adelaide do not have a pick inside the first round, of course, due to them trading with Jason Horne-Francis last year. And then we go to the club pick-by-pick list, and it's looking pretty narrow for Port Adelaide. Picks 37, 43, 70 and 88, which only accumulates to 900 points as well. By far the weakest draft hand in the draft. And they might have to dig into next year's stash of draft picks if they want to get these deals done. Otherwise, they might only get 1 or 2 players out of the 3 walking to Alberton. Gold Coast are looking for points and could be a trading partner. But other than that, there's not really a lot for the Power. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's definitely a watch this space on what happens with these 3 players. Now, of course, there's Harley Reid as well, the number one draft pick this year. He should be taking the number one draft pick. The big question is, who will have it, though? There's a couple of offers. We're going to go to the first round draft picks and have a look at who could make some offers. So here's the first round as it currently stands, and there's quite a few clubs that can make offers. North Melbourne, they've got picks 2, 14, and 3 still to come. So from that Ben McKay conversation, so they'll be able to be one of the clubs which will definitely make an offer. You've got Melbourne, who have picks 5 and 13. They could also make a genuine offer as well. And then there's also the Western Bulldogs, which will probably end up trading with the Gold Coast Suns, but they've got picks 10 and 17. But West Coast, what they really want to do is they really want to try and get Dan Curtin, which I think that's why North will be their best bet, especially if North offer up that pick 2 in that trade. So it'll probably be North, but Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs are definitely outside chances to snare that pick 1. But I don't know what West Coast would be thinking if they were to accept an offer like that. I think it would definitely have to be North. I think they'll probably end up doing a trade with North as they do want Dan Curtin. They definitely won't be able to get Harley Reid and both Dan Curtin. So it'd be interesting to see whether they take Harley Reid and let Dan Curtin go to another club, or move down the order to probably pick 2 and get Dan Curtin, but then let Harley Reid go to North. There is another big question about North Melbourne being asked as well, and that is whether they'll get an assistance package. Back to the first round picks we go. North Melbourne could potentially get a mid-first round pick, potentially as an assistance package offer, but then they would probably likely have them have 2, 3, 14, and potentially another pick like 9 or 10, which would be ridiculous. They could also be able to pre-list Riley Sanders, which again, clubs aren't overly sure on that one either. So it'll be interesting to see how the assistance package goes, but North could potentially have 4 picks inside the first round if the AFL were to give them a bounty of, or let this assistance package go through. And it'd be a ridiculous assistance package if North were to have it. 4 picks inside the first round. That'd be ridiculous. Unlikely, but who knows which way the AFL will go with it. Last but not least, there could be plenty of players moving this year's trade period. Tom Doedee is still a big one out of Adelaide, yet to confirm his future. Sydney, they've got interest in like James Jordan and Brodie Grundy, so they're going to have a very busy trade period as well. And then who knows what else could happen as well. Pick trades and all that, that will definitely affect this year's trade and draft period. So here's the first rounds again. West Coast, North, Hawthorn, Gold Coast, Melbourne, GWS, Geelong, Essendon, Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Sydney, St Kilda, Melbourne, North Melbourne, GWS, Carlton, Western Bulldogs and Collingwood. Port Adelaide and Fremantle do not have picks in the first round, nor do Richmond either. Richmond gave it up in that Taranto and Hopper deal. Freo gave theirs up in that Luke Jackson deal. Port Adelaide gave theirs up in the Jason and Francis deal. And Brisbane also don't currently have a first round pick either due to that deal for Josh Dunkley. All first round draft picks as well going to be getting a 3-year deal up from the past 2-year deal. And here's every club's draft hand. Make sure to pause it if you want to have a look at every club's draft hand. A big watch will be Gold Coast to see what they do with trading, and then Port Adelaide, of course, with all their players. It'll be interesting to see how this trade and draft period goes. But in my opinion, those are things which I think will heavily change this year's trade and draft period. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. See you guys in the next video on the channel. Thank you guys so much. Bye everyone. Flame Footy out.